Okay, so I've been reading. This is just a quick little video. I've been reading the Spirits book. By who is it by? Real quick, it's by. It was first of all, it was published in April 18th, 1857. So this is relatively old by, I want to say, Alan Kardec. Yes, so this is the Spirits book, and essentially the summary for it is organizing questions and answers, which I really like. It's pretty easy to read. It is the first book of Spiritism, considered the backbone of Spiritism, containing the principles of Spiritist philosophy on the immorality of the soul, the nature of spirits and their relations with the corporeal world, the moral laws, the present life, the future life, and the destiny of human race. Its introduction explains the new ideas and how Kardec organized the 1019 questions and answered contained in the book. So that's what I'm reading, and so far I've been reading, he's just been answering questions, and I really just wanted to turn on the camera to read some of this. So essentially they're talking about incarnation, the incarnation of spirits, right? So the lifespan of spirits. Human instinct, he said this, human instinctively hold on to the conviction that things do not end for them once life is over. They abhor the idea of nothingness. In vain they rebel against the idea of a future life, and when the supreme moment arrives, there are only a few who do not ask what will become of them, because the idea of leaving life behind forever is too painful. Who indeed could indifferently face absolute and eternal separation from everything that has been loved? Who could watch without terror the immense abyss of nothingness opening before them, ready to swallow forever all their fallacies and all of their hopes, and at the same time say, that's it, after me there's nothing but nothingness, everything is gone without an appeal. A few days from now, and any remembrance of me will be gone from the memory of those surviving me, and there will be no trace of my passage on earth. Even the good I have done will be forever forgotten by the ingrates I've served, and there's nothing to compensate me for this. No prospect except my body being devoured by worms. And it really kind of touches in, I really enjoy this because it really kind of touches in the Buddhist ideal, especially I think of monks. I'm not super duper inept with or adept with spirituality and all the facts. It's my own journey. I'm not going to be a philosopher, but I really enjoy that because I know in Buddhism especially, they teach about not having an attachment to life, just having this sort of, not detachment, but this peace and contentment where you're not attached to life and the different, things of life, right? So I really enjoy that. And when he said we can't even fathom nothingness after, he said we can't fathom nothingness after life, after death, after life. But then he was talking about before, he was saying God is one. We can't even comprehend how incredible, how incomprehensible God really is, because we just don't have the vernacular to do so. We're only human beings. God is above human beings. God is something I can't even fathom because we're nothing like God, right? That's why I also agree on putting pronouns on God, because God is God. God is a he, she, they. God is a God in its own sector, own section, own label, okay? Okay, so let me continue. He says, is there not something horrifying and chilling in this picture? Religion teaches us that it cannot be like this, and reason confirms it. But a vague and undefined future existence brings nothing to satisfy our love for the pragmatic. This is what has engendered doubt in so many. It is correct to believe we have a soul, but what is it? Does it have any kind of form or appearance? It is a limited or undefined being. Some say it's a breath of God. Others say it is a spark, while still others state that it's just a part of the great whole, the principle of life and intelligence. But what does all this offer us? What does having a soul matter to us if after death it will be merged with the immensity, like drops of water in the ocean? Is losing our individuality not the same as nothingness? It is also said that the soul is immaterial. However, an immaterial object cannot have defined proportions, and so for us, it is the same as nothingness. Religion also teaches us that we shall be happy or unhappy according to the good or evil we have done. But what is the happiness that awaits us in the heart of God? It is blissfulness and internal contemplation with no other concern than singing praises to the Creator. And that's a question, by the way. And are the flames of hell in a reality, or only a symbol? The church itself generally understands them in the latter sense. What then are the sufferings of hell? What is the place of punishment? In short, do we actually do, and what do we actually see in the other world that waits for us, each one of us? It is usually stated that no one has ever returned to give us an account of what exists over there. That, however, is an error, and spiritualism mission is precisely to enlighten us regarding that future, to enable us to see and touch it to a certain extent, no longer through reason only, but through actual phenomena also. Thanks to spirit communications, the matter no longer involves pure conjecture, nor is it solely a probability that each one paints at will, or something that poets embellish with their fictions or dress up in an allegorical images that seduce us. Instead, is a reality that has shown its face to us, and the actual beings from beyond the grave have come to tell us about their situation there and what they do there. They have allowed us to watch, so to speak, the events of their new life, thereby showing us the inevitable fate reserved for us according to their own merits or wrongs. Is there anything anti-Christian in this? Quite the contrary, since the disbelievers have found faith as a result, and the lukewarm have enjoyed a renewal of zeal and confidence. Hence, spiritism is Christianity's most powerful aid. If such is the case, it is because God has allowed it. God enables it to reanimate our wavering hopes and lead us into the path of good through hope for the future. Chapter, okay, so that was pretty good. I don't know, I feel like it's like just, it's really like hard to even fathom what he's saying, because it's essentially saying like God, he said this before, I didn't read it, I was reading it for a while, but he was saying essentially that God is one. God is not like this, because he was talking about I forgot what it is, but like when people basically believe all religions are like, you know, basically this all one. They were basically like, we can't, basically God is a cause, not an effect. God didn't like, God wasn't born. God is just God, and that's, God is nothingness to an wait, what? Not nothingness, but like, think about it. If God was like, you can't think about, if I ask the question, where did God come from? We can't answer that question, because essentially God just, it's just God, like God just always, I can't even say existed, because existence kind of makes it seem like, oh, birth, and God is not like, God is in like immortal and I can't think of a word, but it's like immortal, like he not like, and I can't even say he, God is just not like us. Two different planes, right? So it's kind of like, okay, but then also I feel like, okay, what if we're asking them, what is a God, right? God is really nothing, because God is it's immortal. God is immortal. God cannot die. God is always living. Not even living, God's just there. I just can't even like describe it. Weird, I know. Okay, so then chapter 3, the return from the corporeal to the spirit life. The soul after death, its individuality, eternal life, the separation of the soul from the body, the spirit's state of confusion after death. The soul after death. What does a soul become at death? It becomes a spirit again, i.e. it returns to the world of the spirits that it had left for a time. Does a soul preserve its individuality after death? Yes, it never loses it. What would the soul be if it did not preserve its individuality? How does the soul preserve its individuality if it no longer has a material body? It still has a fluid property proper to it, which it draws from its planet, and which retains the appearance of its last incarnation, the perispirit, and which the perispirit is kind of like, which this book, hold on. This book is coming out. This is the first Alchemy book I've read. She said something, Miss Catherine, she said something about 9/4. Just 9/4 is really analogy to like in the Harry Potter movies, where it was like the train station and him missing it or something like that, and there was like that small in between, right? So we have, and I also read it in another book, which was Feeding Your Demons, and then Shakti Rising, which is a book about regarding Hinduism and the different deities like Mata Kali, Shiva, I think, girl, not Shiva, but you know what I mean. Anyway, so basically, it's essentially saying we have like a causal body, right? And I think like it's like a causal body, like kind of like this, an aura. She also talked about that, and also in between the spiritual world and this world, a material plane is a small sector you can go into, 3/4. I don't know how to get there. I'm still learning. Okay. Okay, let me see what he says. Doesn't the soul take anything else from the world? Nothing more than its memories and the desire to go to a better world. These memories are full of sweetness or bitterness, depending on how the soul has lived its earthly life. The purer it is, the more it will comprehend the futility of what it has left behind the earth. What about the opinion that the soul returns to the universal whole after death? Don't all the spirits taken together make up a whole? Yet you are in a group, you are an integral part of it, and yet you still retain your own individuality. What evidence is there for the soul's individuality after death? Don't you have such evidence through the communications you receive? If you were not blind, you would see. If you were not deaf, you would hear, because frequently a voice speaks to you and reveals to you the existence of beings outside yourself. Clock that to you. Those who think the soul returns to the universal whole at death are wrong if they mean that it loses its individuality like a drop of water falling into the ocean. Nevertheless, they are right if by universal whole they mean the entire assembly of incorporeal beings of which each soul or spirit is a member. Okay? If souls were melded together into the universal whole, they would possess only the qualities of the whole, and nothing would distinguish them from one another. They would have no intelligence or qualities of their own. However, in all their communications with us, they revealed a consciousness of the self and a distinct will. That infinite diversity they display under all aspects is evidence of their individualization. If there was nothing after death except what is called the great whole, observing all individualities, that whole would have no homogeneous, and all the communications received from the invisible world would therefore all have to be identical. It is obvious that we are dealing with distinct beings, for we meet good and evil, knowledgeable and ignorant, happy and downcast beings of all natures, joyful and sad, frivolous and serious, etc. Individuality becomes more obvious when these beings prove their identity through unmistakable signs and verifiable persona details related to their earthly lives. Furthermore, there can be no doubt about such individuality when they manifest as impartations. The individuality of the soul has been taught theoretically as an article of faith, but mysticism makes it obvious and to a certain extent material. In what sense should we understand the internal life? Only the life of the spirit is internal. The life of the body is transitory and temporary. When the body dies, the soul returns to eternal life. Wouldn't it be more correct to understand the eternal life as that of pure spirits who no longer undergo trials because they have finally attained perfection? That indeed represents internal happiness, but it is all a matter of words. You may call it whatever you want as long as you understand the words you use. The separation of the soul and the body. It is the separation of the soul from the body, a painful process. No, frequently the body suffers more during life. Wow. Suffers more during life than the moment of death. That makes me actually kind of happy because I was scared of that. The soul itself feels nothing at death. That suffering that is sometimes experienced at the moment of death is pleasure for the spirit, for it sees that the end of this exile is at hand. It is a natural death that results in the depletion of organic vitality due to age. Humans depart from life without even realizing it, like a light that goes out for lack of energy. How does the separation of the soul from the body occurs? Once the bond that holds the souls are ruptured, it disengages itself. Does this separation occur instantly or through an abrupt transition? Is there a well-defined dividing line between life and death? No. The soul liberates itself gradually. It does not escape like a captive bird that is suddenly set free. Wow. The two states touch and blend with each other. The way the spirit disengages itself little by little from its bond, they unravel, they do not break. Okay, that's good to know, because when I'm in... Okay. The spirit is connected to the body during life by its semi-material envelope or perispirit. Death is the destruction of the body, but not the perispirit envelope, which separates from the body when organic life ceases. Observation has shown that at the moment of death, the spirit departure does not occur suddenly. It occurs gradually and may vary in speed according to the individual. For some, it is very quick indeed, and in such a case, one could say that the moment of death is also that of liberation, which actually happens soon afterwards. However, for others, especially those whose life has been materialistic and sensual, the separation takes much longer, sometimes lasting for days, weeks, and even months. This does not imply that there is any validity or vitality remaining in the body, or any possibility that it might return to life. It only means that an infinity persists between the body and spirit, an infinity that always depends on the importance that the spirit has given to the matter during life. And it is logical to believe that the more the spirit has identified with matter, the more it will suffer upon separating from it. On the other hand, intellectual and more activity and elevated thoughts initiate the separation even during corporeal life, and when death finally occurs, the separation is almost instantaneous. All this is the result of studies involving individuals at the moment of death, and demonstrate that the infinity that persists between the soul and the body in some individuals can be extremely painful. The spirit may even experience the horror of decomposition. Such a case example and peculiar to certain kinds of death, suicide for example, which is really freaking sad. Can the definitive separation between soul and body occur before the complete cessation of organic life? Sometimes it's a death throes. The soul has already left the body, which has nothing left in it except organic life. The individual no longer has any self-awareness. Clock that saying. He said, can someone's spirit leave their body like before they actually body like dies, like logically speaking? And he said sometimes when the death throes, the soul has already left the body, which has nothing left in it except organic life. So they can nothing left, but you can still move, whatever. The individual no longer has any self-awareness, and yet a faint breath of life still remains. The body is a machine that is kept going by the heart, and it continues to live as long as the heart circulates blood in the veins, and for that it does not need a soul. Like that too. At the moment of death, does the soul sometimes experience a yearning or an ecstasy entailing a forward glimpse of the world it is about to enter? The soul often feels that the bonds holding it to the body are loosening, and consequently it employs all its efforts to sever them entirely. Already partially released from matter, it beholds the future unfolding before it and enjoys the spirit state beforehand. Can the example of the caterpillar, which begins by crawling on the ground, then shuts itself in a cocoon and in apparent death to be reborn into a brilliant existence, provide us an idea of the terrestrial life, which is followed by the grave and then a new existence? A pale idea. The image is good, but you must not take it literally, as you always are prone to do. He a little rude. Okay, what sensation does the soul experience at the moment it realizes that it is in the spiritual world? That depends. If it has done evil for the love of it, the spirit is first ashamed of what it has done, however, experience something completely different. If it had been morally upright, it feels relieved of a great weight and does not fear the most scrutinizing glance. Does the spirit immediately meet those on whom it knew on earth and who died before it? Yes, depending on the affection they had for one another, they almost always come to receive it as a strive to return to the spiritual world, and they may even help free it from the bonds of matter. It also sees many whom it had lost sight of it during its sojourn on earth. Additionally, it sees those who are the errant state and goes to visit those who are still incarnate. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. That was a good little read. And actually, I want to go back to this book, and I want to go find the in between. We're gonna go there, and then I'm gonna have a shower. In between. I think it's okay. What is it? 19. Let's actually read this. Magic the hard way. Right, so this is page 10 again of this book. At first blush, magic sounds like an easy way of doing things. That's part of its appeal. If you really could turn lead into gold, you wouldn't have to get up and go to work in the morning. Yet when you read alchemists' accounts of their quest for the Philosopher's Stone, doing things the easy way seems insanely difficult. It took Nicholas Flamel most of his adult life to produce 8 ounces of gold. Surely he could have managed the same result just by getting a better job. If you all really want to do is pay your taxes to the Roman Empire, I would recommend you buy a book on personal finance. While alchemy can indeed help you to achieve that and other practical results, and the task of raising money is entirely worthy of alchemical intention, it's a bit like buying a cow when all you want is a glass of milk. For the alchemist, even a modest outward result can require tremendous inner effort, because changing what is inside is how the alchemist goes about changing what is outside, right? All magicians operate on the assumption that inward events can influence outward events, that external phenomena can be altered by what's going on in the human mind. Contrary to popular belief, it is an assumption shared by most scientists. They have to go out their way to eliminate mental factors from physical experiments. When testing a new drug, for example, they must control for the placebo effect, that is, the fact that a certain percentage of patients will get better results if you give them a sugar pill and tell them it's medicine. The separation of material events from mental events is an artificial condition that occurs only in the science lab. It's not how things work in the real world. If you're like most people, you occasionally employ your mental powers in hopes of influencing what happens. Perhaps you have discovered that you can make some of your desires come true by visualizing or using affirmations or other forms of positive thinking. And if you haven't discovered that, you most certainly will have discovered that you can make some of your worries come to pass by worrying. You might pray, send light or good energy, or simply kind thoughts to people who seem to need your help. You wouldn't bother unless you believe that what goes on in your mind could potentially make a difference. By employing special techniques to concentrate and project thought, magicians can achieve some remarkable effects. You yourself will probably develop this ability in the course of becoming an alchemist. But the magic of thought projection alone is not alchemy. And this kind of goes about mentalism, the idea of mentalism, which I kind of read a little bit like a couple months ago, just little pages, but it was like how like mentalism actually is a thing, so I can read on that. In Tibetan alchemy, the philosopher's stone is a magical diamond. It is said to have the power to transmute poison into medicine. To be sure, the basic magic of mind control might enable an adept to drink the poison without getting sick, like lying on a bed of nails or walking over hot coals. The stunt entails concentrating so powerfully that one remains unaffected by what is harmful, right? The magician doesn't change, and neither does the poison, right? So the magician is the same thing with the poison. But to render the harmful beneficial, to render the harmful beneficial, so to let the bad things be beneficial is a different, or not the bad things, the thing that in your life that you may have not liked, you can render it beneficial to you is a different sort of procedure altogether. It requires an innate, intimate knowledge of the poison, right? The knowledge that cannot possibly be gained by remaining unaffected, right? Between you and anything that you might wish to influence, there is a relationship. If either party relationship changes, the relationship itself is changed. In turn, any change in the relationship changes both parties. So if you wish to change something, the first thing you must do is discover the true nature of the relationship to it. Then you'll be able to change it by changing yourself. This is the basic logic of alchemy. That's some real shit. People pay for this knowledge. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Alas, it's much easier said than done. For discovering the true nature of a relationship is not easy at all. Our perception is clouded by our hopes and fears, our opinions, preconceptions, likes and dislikes. Often what obscures it most is our very desire to change an object in the first place. Let me give you a down-to-earth example. Our would-be magician is a young woman called Annie. One night she goes out to a bar where a handsome guitarist named Carlos is performing. During a break between sets, they strike up a conversation and Carlos asks for Annie's phone number. Annie is thrilled. Over the next few days, she eagerly awaits a call that never comes. By day 5, she is so frustrated that she decides to resort to magic. How shall she go about it? Annie's first idea is to apply visualization. She lights a candle, closes her eyes, and concentrates on a mental picture of her desire. The phone ringing. Carl's voice, her witty remarks, his laughter, his inviting her out on a date. Once she has perfected the mental picture, she attempts to send it his way, hoping that it would inspire him to act. Will that work? Maybe. Maybe not. But even if it does work, it's not alchemy. Annie's attempting to change Carlos, but she hasn't changed anything about Annie. She hasn't changed anything about herself, trying to change somebody else. Instead of focusing on Carlos himself, let's look at what's happening in the relationship between them. Outwardly, Annie is in a passive position, waiting for Carlos to take the initiative. Inwardly, though, Annie is the pursuer. Her body is sitting still, but her soul is chasing Carlos. As your grandmother probably told you, guys don't like to be chased. So when the visualization fails, Annie decides to attempt the time-honored magic of playing hard to get. She turns off her cell phone so that if Carlos tries to call, he will get her voicemail. Okay? This maneuver isn't alchemy at all. She has only succeeded in changing her outward behavior, not her inside, inward state, her mind. She is still hoping to manipulate the object of her desire. The real problem here is that she hasn't discovered the true nature of her relationship to that object. She has only seen one aspect of it, the fact that inwardly she is the pursuer. But exactly what is she pursuing? Well, who is Carlos? What does he really mean to her? Annie works at an office job that bores her. Her life as she sees it is conventional and uninspiring. Carlos attracts her because he is a musician. She imagines he leads an arty bohemian life, and that being a part of it would make her life a lot more interesting. What your grandmother probably didn't tell you is that when you become infatuated with someone you hardly know, what you have actually fallen in love with is an unrealized potential in yourself. You have a big crush on what you yourself wish to become. In other words, Annie isn't having a relationship with the actual Carlos at all. The true nature of the relationship is the long arms of conventional Annie for the arty and the bohemian Annie. Annie is chasing herself. The poison here is Annie's frustrated longing for a different life. The alchemy begins with tasting that, swallowing it, experiencing its nature, and feeling its full effect. If our heroine is willing to do that, something in her will change. Perhaps she will quit her boring job. Perhaps she will begin to cultivate her own thwarted creativity or go on an adventure. Or seek out more interesting friends. I don't know exactly what she'll do, but if she perceives the friendship relationship accurately, Annie will change. She will become more like the person she imagines Carlos to be. Will this cause him to telephone? Beats me. But the question has lost its importance. Alchemical magic always begins with a specific desire, like wanting someone to phone. No desire is too silly, too trivial, or too selfish to serve as your base matter. That's why they call it base matter. So any situation you can, and that's how I did it. But if you're really doing alchemy, the outcome might bear no resemblance at all to what you thought you were going for. Alchemy procedures change the alchemist, and in the process, often the very desire that gave rise to them. And I'm going to end it here. End it here. Knowledge. Here. We get there. All right. Bye.